by stage. If you have any questions or you need anything at all, our gorgeous blue shirts and red shirts are here to help, so do make sure you let us know. And we have two fantastic roving mics so that we can get your questions answered. We have got the fabulous Justin and the sensational Rob. Guys, would you mind popping your mics up? So just make sure you pop your hands up as high as they'll go and we'll get around to as many of you as humanly possible. Now, without any further ado, please, a huge Destination Star Trek welcome to the one and only Mr. George Takei. Thank you so much for joining us.
Did you hear that oh my applause? It really was an oh my applause. Thank you very much for that welcome. We're having a great time here, and well, it's not really Birmingham, is it? It's out in the outskirts of Birmingham. We're surrounded by a forest here. But this is a very important year. It's an anniversary here on so many counts. And it's very significant that all the young people, as well as the mature people, as well as the ancient people that help contribute to building a public backing for exploration. This is the 50th anniversary of two men who landed on the surface of the moon for the first time. Neil Armstrong said, "One small step for a man and one great leap for mankind." It was a momentous occasion, but it was also a momentous occasion for those of us who worked on Star Trek, because that very same year, 1969, Star Trek was canceled. We were gone. So it was a sad year as well. But the important thing is, in reality, we have soared to the moon and landed there. But for those of us who have worked on Star Trek, the way they landed looked so old-fashioned. I mean, really antique. You know, that ungainly mechanical thing that floated down, parachuted down, and landed on the moon. And then two astronauts come waddling out, dressed in white, fluffy, marshmallow spacesuits, and just kind of wobble around on the surface of the moon. We did it much better on Star Trek. We simply stepped on a transporter pod and sparkled for a second and popped out for a few seconds and then reached our destination, an alien planet, sparkled and popped in. We simply beamed over. Simple. Why couldn't they have done it then, so that then we can really claim to have done something futuristic? That's what we did, but it was on that same time that we were canceled. But this is another personal anniversary for me that connects with the people of Britain. It's my 10th anniversary from having done I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And I hear Joe Walsh is still commentating on it. He has become I'm a Celebrity institution. And he was one of my dear friends from the show, although some of you may have gotten other thoughts on it. He taught me a great deal. He taught me a song that you Brits find very popular. It begins with holy, 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 da 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 da. Any of you know that? Oh, you do? What's it? Sing me the words. Ollie, ollie, ollie. You dare not say that word publicly. You lost a dare. But it's been 10 years since that, and I have fond memories of that, and the many friends I made and the many supporters that voted for me. Joe came in #1. Martina Sabatolo is an amazing woman. I mean, she was a physical fitness addict. Even in the jungle, she was working out regularly, every day. And she was second, and I came in third. Only because Joe Swash kissed me on the air in the jungle. So many important events happened, and wonderful memories also I have of 10 years ago as well as 50 years ago, both happy and both sad. But our cancellation wasn't really a cancellation at an end, so that's all right, because 10 years after that, in 1979, Star Trek came back as a major feature motion picture. And that would not have occurred without the massive support that you all gave us. Because after cancellation, we went on the air in reruns. But unlike most reruns that run just once a week, we ran throughout the week, from Monday to Friday, 5 times. And that's when we finally found our audience. And our ratings soared. And it soared and soared and kept growing. And that's when Paramount decided, we have something valuable here. Let's do it as a major feature film. And we got our second win in 1979 as Star Trek The Motion Picture. And from that beginning, 40 years ago, we kept coming out with more and more feature films. I think there are 14 out now. And we started reproducing like you fans did. We gave birth to children. First to our next generation, Star Trek The Next Generation, and then other series followed, and we're very proud of all of them. And now we are our grandchildren. It's about to start yesterday. Patrick was here, and he talked to you about his new series again, a brand new series. And so Star Trek keeps on going on, just like the triple that you all are. You have reproduced and reproduced and reproduced, and that magnificently huge following is what made possible these conventions, as well as the phenomenon of a show that's 53 years old. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you very much. And let's begin with the fun part, the conversation back and forth. So we have
got questions and lots galore. So please put your hands up. Justin, shall we start on your side, my love?
Hello, George. Thank you very much for being here.
hello, good to see you.
This is a question tangentially related to Star Trek. An artist of mine, Voltaire's made an album of Star Trek and Star Wars songs together with Robert Picardo and the man who plays Excelsior, whose name I forgot. But he also wanted to use your voice, and I was wondering why you didn't want to cooperate with that project.
He asked me to cooperate?
Yes, he asked you to say your line for the end of one of his songs, which was "Fellow Starfolk, cool it down." But he said that you refused.
I refused.
Yeah, or that you didn't want him to use the audio clip of your voice.
I don't recall that at all. I can't imagine me turning down something that one of our children have asked us. Who asked me that?
Aurelio Voltaire is singing.
I'm not familiar with that name at all either. Part of my problem is I'm constantly on the go. This year, from January until January until May, I was in Vancouver filming a new television series, a mini-series, 10-part series titled The Terror Infamy, that deals with the internment of Japanese Americans. I don't know whether it's aired here or not, but and since then, my graphic memoir, They Call Us Enemy, came out, and I've been on a 2-month promotional tour for the book, as well as speaking tours, as well as conventions. So I'm sure I was not available. It was not a rejection. I would not have rejected unless I had found something unauthentic or objectionable about it. So I really don't recall anything like that. I don't recall the name of the man that you say asked me either. I think it's something that's fabricated to get some attention for that man. I'm awfully sorry.
Hello, my name is Bridget. Hi. Well, out of all the series and episodes you made, which is your favourite you had to make?
Of the television series,
Yes.
my favorite is Naked Time, where I whipped off my shirt and terrorized the ship with my fencing pole. My favorite of the movies is the best one of them all, number 6, The Undiscovered Country. Ah, you agree with me. However, I think the subtitle was not quite apt. The Undiscovered Country. That's from Shakespeare, Hamlet's Sulu. But I think if you really look at the film and study it, the core plot is about that brand new captain that the movie begins with. A brand new ship, much larger than the Enterprise, brand new captain, very, very experienced and confident, sipping his cup of green tea. That's Captain Sulu that we knew from the very first season, now advanced to a captain. But the drama immediately begins. These vibrations from the explosion of the Praxis comes over, and Captain Sulu has to shout, "Shields, shields, protect the ship." And that begins the founding action. And at that crucial climax point, when the captain of the old Enterprise, Captain Kirk, is about to be blown away to smithereens by the Klingon adversaries, out of the darkened galaxy sky comes Captain Sulu and the Excelsior and blasts the Klingon to bits, and thus saving the Enterprise and the captain from extinction. And like all classic Star Trek endings, it ends on the bridge of the Enterprise. But this time, a chastened, humble Captain Kirk looks up at that big, giant view screen and sees that magnificent view of Captain Sulu. And essentially, he says, looking up at Captain Sulu, "Thank you for saving my ass." And Captain Sulu looks down at Captain Kirk and says, "Good to see you in action one more time," and smiles and takes off. And there's an awestruck McCoy looking at the view screen and the image of the Excelsior going off, and he says, "By God, that's a big ship." But Scotty chimes in with a twinkle in his eyes. Aye, but not so big as ever a captain, I think. That's a Captain Sulu movie. Beginning, middle, and end. So, that film should really be subtitled not The Undiscovered Country, but Captain Sulu to the Rescue. Isn't that more appropriate?
Hi.
Where are you? Wave your hand. Oh, there. There you are.
Thank you for coming to speak to us. You mentioned your role in the terror infamy, and I just wanted to ask how much it meant to you and what it was like to be part of a series that obviously touches on your experiences, something that's so important to you personally. Thank you.
The story of terror infamy is a very personal one. It's a chapter of American history that is not a pretty one at all. After Pearl Harbor was bombed by the Japanese, all American citizens of Japanese Americans were looked at with suspicion and fear and outright hatred, simply because we look exactly like the people that bombed Pearl Harbor. My grandparents immigrated from Japan to America in the 1890s. My mother was born in Sacramento, California. My father was a San Franciscan. They met and married in Los Angeles. And my brother and sister and I were born in Los Angeles. We're Americans, but we look like this. And the country was swept up in war hysteria. And every politician in the country, from city council people to mayors, to governors, to U.S. senators, were chanting, lock up the Jats, simply because they had no evidence of our involvement in Pearl Harbor, because there was no evidence. But because we looked like this, and the racism at that time, they wanted to lock up people of Japanese ancestry. And even the President of the United States got swept up and signed an executive order 9066, which ordered all the Japanese Americans on the West Coast to be summarily rounded up and imprisoned in 10 barbed wire prison camps with no charges, with no trial, due process, which is a central pillar of our American justice system, simply disappeared. There was no evidence, no attempt at finding evidence at all. And I remember that horrific morning. Shortly after my 5th birthday, my parents got me up very early one morning together with my brother, sister, and myself, dressed us early. And my brother and I were told to wait in the living room while my parents did some last-minute packing back in the bedroom. And so my brother and I were just gazing out the front window at the neighborhood. And suddenly we saw 2 soldiers marching up our driveway. They carried rifles with shining bayonets. They stopped at the porch and with their fists began pounding on the front door. That pounding was a terrifying sound. It felt like the whole house was trembling. My father came out of the bedroom and answered the door. And literally at gunpoint, we were ordered out of our home. My father gave my brother and me, my brother was 4, I was 5 then, small packages to carry. And he had 2 heavy suitcases. And we followed him out onto the driveway and waited for our mother to come out. When she came out, she had our baby sister in one arm and 2 heavy duffel bags in her right arm. And tears were flowing down both her cheeks. It was a terrifying morning, and I'll never forget that. We were loaded onto trucks that had other Japanese American families already loaded, and taken to a nearby racetrack. We were unloaded, herded over to the stable areas, and each family was assigned a horse stall to sleep in, still with the sting of horsemanship. That was to be our temporary home for a few months while the camps were being built. For my parents, it was a dehumanizing, degrading, painful experience to take their children to sleep in that horse stall. After the construction of the barbed wire prison camps were finished, they packed us into railway cars with armed soldiers at both ends of each car and transported 2/3 of the way across the country, from Los Angeles to the swamps of Arkansas to a barbed wire prison camp. I still remember the barbed wire fence that confined us. I remember the tall sentry towers with the machine guns pointing at us. I remember the searchlight that followed me when I made the night runs from our barrack to the latrine. For my parents, it was an invasive, humiliating light. But to 5-year-old me, I thought it was nice that they lit the way for me to pee. I was a kid. I didn't understand what was going on. And my parents said that we were going on a long vacation. And I thought everyone went on vacations, ushered by armed soldiers. I thought that was the norm. Children are amazingly adaptable. What would have been grotesquely abnormal became my normality behind those barbed wire fences. It became routine for me to line up 3 times a day to eat lousy food in a noisy mess hall. It became normal for me to go with my father and brother to bathe in a mass shower. And it became normal for me to go to school in a black tar paper bag and begin the school day with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I could see the barbed wire fence and the sentry tower right outside my schoolhouse window as I recited the words, "With liberty and justice for all." Totally innocent of the stinging irony in those words, "with liberty and justice for all." So that was the beginning of my life and the beginning of the forces that shaped me and formed me to become who I am today. And I did that TV series, The Terror Infamy, but just this July, my most recent book, the graphic memoir, They Called Us Enemy, was published. And I noticed many of you have acquired that book and brought it by to have it autographed. It's a comic strip version of the story of my childhood imprisonment, told from the eyes of 5-year-old me. And the artist who drew the comic strip, a tremendously gifted artist, and made that 5-year-old me an irresistibly adorable little boy. You will not be able to resist it. And I tell the story from my child's perspective. Innocent events, innocent things, but also I introduce the people to the larger story of my parents' harrowing experience. Innocent people that were imprisoned simply because we look like the enemy. So if you get a chance, do go out and get a copy of that. It's too late for me to autograph it because today's the last day here. But I will be back, so I'll sign it then.
of Broadway with Legions. This, making sure that these stories are not forgotten, the stories of your parents, the stories of your own childhood, but then other Japanese Americans and other people who are returned. This is really a legacy of your life, isn't it, would you say? How important is that representation to you?
Yes, I've taken it as my mission in life to share this chapter of American history so that it will not happen again. And so I did this television miniseries, The Terror Infamy. But we also developed a Broadway musical titled Allegiance to tell that story. And using the word allegiance, where it was we who were loyal to the government and to the ideals of our American democracy, but it was our government who betrayed the ideals of democracy. And so my autobiography, which was published in 1994, and I noticed that a few of you brought that with you to that autograph. That tells my life story and how that led to my activism. I realized, or my father explained to me, that our democracy is a people's democracy, and it has glowing ideas, noble ideals, but those ideals were put down on paper by the same people who have fallibilities. We're human beings with human fallibilities, and humans make mistakes. So our democracy is dependent on people who actively participate in the government to keep those ideals true, sometimes holding government's feet to the fire.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your final chance to grab a bargain from our merchandise store. Lots of items there for £3 or less. So don't miss out on a bargain. Go and visit the merchandise store.
A commercial break. On television, at least we have the decency to build to a certain point. This one is so rudely just barges in. Can anything be done to prevent this from happening again?
Probably not.
Well, I, as an activist, I will talk to you.
And I think you have a record here.
We were just talking about the importance of people participating in misbehavior by the authorities. And so I will act on it so that this won't happen again. And that's what's made me an activist, having had that background. And my father taught me that it's important for people to be actively engaged in our system so that we can prevent this sort of thing happening, because people aren't fallible. And the chilling thing is, this happened to me and my family and other Japanese Americans, 120,000 of us, over 70 years ago during the Second World War. But it is being repeated again in the United States on our southern borders, where outrageous things are happening from their parents and put in filthy cages reeking with human waste. And a cage that's built for 20 people holds 100 people. It's an outrageous, barbaric, inhuman thing that's happening right now. Brad and I have been down to the southern border of Texas, to Brownsville, and we've seen the border, and I've talked to the students at Brownsville University to activate them. But America is made better by having people with ideals actively participating in the government. And here, I'm a visitor in your country, here in Great Britain, where I see the same sort of madness happening with your Brexit situation that's dividing the country. But I think it's important that people now have more information about Brexit. We have more people young people now that have the vote, and it's their future that's going to be affected. And many of the people that voted initially in the referendum have passed away. So this is a today story. And
hello, George. Hi.
Hi, there you are.
It's not very often that an actor or a group of actors will film scenes and then come back years later and film those scenes again. Can you talk a bit about how you prepared for that process and the differences between filming for Undiscovered Country and Star Trek Voyager and then working with the children, as you put it, with one of the new shows?
Well, we don't do the same thing over again. It's not the same scene. It's the same characters having grown older. And the wonderful thing about Star Trek is, we have grown older. You see the color of my hair now, and with some of my colleagues, the lack thereof. There was one who never had hair from the beginning. We know who he is. But we don't repeat the same scene because we're no longer the same people, and the situation is no longer the same. We try to recreate some of the ideas of that former scene in the context of today, and with the series too. Today is a very different series, and certainly the look of the series is quite different from the Enterprise of the television series. Certainly from the television series Enterprise to just the first motion picture. The set design was dramatically different. So we don't repeat and redo something that we've done before. We try to update and incorporate new information and new designs. So I hope I'm answering your question. We're not repeating what we did before. In the Voyager episode that you referred to, I haven't seen it, so I'm afraid I can't comment on it. Oh, you're right. I guess they did repeat in one episode some scenes together. But even there too, I think there should be nuanced differences. We don't. I mean, it's mindless to just do the same. But we don't have to waste time. Just take that first scene and reprint it again and run it again and again.
Thank you so much. On stage right here, we have someone standing up.
Hi, George. So, keeping on that similar sort of vein with Voyager, as the final series was airing in 2000, there were rumours that Paramount were going to commission a Star Trek Excelsior series. So, my question is two-part. One, was the rumour true? And two, would you have signed up to do a 5-7 year run as Star Trek Excelsior?
And three, would you do it now?
Well, thank you for that question. As you know, Star Trek fans are activists too. They take the initiative and try to make things happen. And they have been successful. When, after the second season of Star Trek, the show was about to be canceled, and Bejeweled Trimble and her husband John were the activists that started a mailing fan letter writing campaign to ask NBC and Paramount to do a third season of Star Trek. And the network initially did not take that seriously. But because Star Trek fans are a whole different breed of animal, it spread like wildfire. And to mix metaphors, their letter writing campaign turned into a tidal wave. Wildfire and tidal wave. Mixed metaphors there. And number of fan letters coming into both Paramount and NBC was enormous. And because of that, we got a third season. But alas, that didn't help the ratings, so it was canceled after that. When Star Trek VI was released, with the new captain and the new starship Excelsior, I thought it was almost the logical next step. Any Vulcan would tell you that. And the fans certainly took up the cue, and they began another massive letter writing campaign. It was combined with letter writing and some emails, because emails were starting to come in. And it again was an enormous type. But the people at Paramount and NBC are, and especially at Paramount, are both deaf, dumb, and blind. Nothing happened. Nothing came of it. But it is true, it was more than a rumor. There was an enormous activist campaign to begin a new series called The Excelsior. But nothing came of that. And now it's died away. And certainly, when you're counting anniversaries, we have lost some of our original cast members. And it's always, when you talk about the passage of time, you talk about dear friends. And I consider one of the biggest gifts that I got from Star Trek was my workmates who had become lifelong friends. But like Jimmy Dewey was my favorite drinking buddy. And I learned a great deal from him, especially at those drinking sessions. He made a confession to me. He said, I'm becoming famous as a Scotsman, but to tell you the truth, I am really Irish. To the Irish viewers, and a Canadian to boot. I'm an Irish Canadian born in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I am becoming famous as a Scotsman. But, he insisted to me, I have drunk enough of the libation of Scotland to qualify to play in Scotland. That's true. I'm a witness to that. DeForest is a total opposite of Jimmy. He is a Southern gentleman, born in Macon, Georgia. And in Georgia is a very hot, sultry part of America. And people move slowly and talk slowly, and that was deep. He talked slowly and he moved slowly, but he was a true gentleman of the old song. But he was also a smoker, because that's one of the big produce from the South. And that did him in. He was 79 when he was passed. He was the first of us to pass. And then it was Jimmy, and Gene Roddenberry passed, Major Barrett passed, and I say most recently, but it was 2-3 years ago, Leonard Nimoy, he's called the conscience of Star Trek. He was the real thinker and the rational guy, and a dear and loyal friend. He played in Excelsior, he played, what's the name of the main character in Excelsior? Who knows? Well, the psychiatrist. He played him on Broadway. I did him in a production in Los Angeles. And Leonard, the ushers came backstage to tell me that Leonard's in the audience. And I was really nervous because he did it on Broadway. And I was hoping maybe he wouldn't come backstage. But sure enough, after the performance, he came backstage to my dressing room smiling. And so I said, Leonard, well, how'd I do? He smiled at me and said, you are better. That's a lie. But that's his way of getting out of it. When we did Allegiance, before we went to Broadway, we did it in San Diego, which is a 2-hour drive from Los Angeles. And yet Leonard and his wife, Susan, drove down from Los Angeles to San Diego to come see me in Allegiance, the musical that we did on Broadway. And the whole cast was so enthralled, and I hardly got a chance to talk to him because the cast members, when he came backstage, surrounded him, and he posed for pictures with everybody. But he's that kind of guy, and these are the friends that we're losing now. At my wedding, we asked Walter Koenig, who played Chekhov, to be our best man, and we asked Michelle Uhura to be our matron of honor. But Michelle responded by saying, I am not a matron. If Walter can be the best man, why can't I be the best lady? And we said, of course you are. You are not only our best lady, our supreme lady. And so, you know, my colleagues are my friends, and it's kind of sad to talk of the passage of time and talk of celebrating certain landmark events, but also the loss that comes with time. But they're all beloved and remain true and warm in my heart. And I was just reminded that my time is up. Only here.